What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to Grayson Media Inc. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe across all platforms. Enjoy the show. Grayson out. Me to the stage. Welcome. Good evening. Welcome to Grayson Politics Live. I am Grayson. For today, sorry about yesterday. Had some unforeseen circumstances that came up. Just to apologize to I know I put a promo out there, but just to apologize to the audience. Because we are professionals, all professionals here. So I do apologize for those who were trying to tune in and that didn't happen. But we are here today. We have our guest who I'm about to bring up, Kevin Davis. I'll let him introduce himself. He's a Hudson County advocate. So yeah, let's get right to it. This is a Grayson Media Inc. production. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow. That's all I ask. If you want to support the show, just catch all of those handles there. I know they're backwards, but they won't be on once I the stage, take myself off the stage. And also, we're interactive though, so we will be having your questions and comments on. So feel free to, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, feel free to be on there as well. And we'll pull up your questions and comments. I'm your host, Grayson. As always, our mission is simple: facts, transparency, and accountability. Tonight, we're joined by Hudson County advocate Kevin Davis, a familiar face throughout Jersey City and Hoboken, who has become well known for speaking before municipal governing bodies, advocating for safer streets, and questioning public policy, and encouraging residents to become more engaged in local government. So tonight we'll discuss Kevin's background, his career in the sports industry, as a professional sports betting odds maker. Correct me if I'm wrong, and once you come up, his experience as an elected official at age 23, his advocacy throughout Hudson County, and his viral city council speeches, and amongst other things, e-bikes, transportation, and we have a plethora of things to get on. But let me bring our guest up, and we'll get right into it. Let's see here.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Let me give you a...
Before we start, I encourage everybody to click that like button so more people on YouTube and the algorithms find this episode, as well as click the follow button, because I was watching Grayson's other content and I think he's a great host. He lets the guests talk and he's just a mensch.
I appreciate that. So let's get into it. As always, tonight's show is interactive. Drop your questions and comments, and we'll answer as many as time allows. Kevin, welcome to Grayson Politics Live. First question: who is Kevin Davis? Tell the audience about yourself and your background, and where you grew up, and what inspired you to be involved in public advocacy.
So I'm from a small town called Croton-on-Hudson, New York, which is in Westchester County. It's right next to Ossining, where Sing Sing Prison is, and it's 20 minutes away from where the Clintons live, so suburban New York City. And I went to my first village board meeting in public comment when I was 17 years old and a senior in high school. And ever since then, 20 years later, I'm still going to city council or town meetings and commenting. And in between that period, I led a referendum campaign when I was 21, where I got signatures, went door to door to put a ballot measure up to move the March elections in my town to November as a way of getting more people to vote. So our slogan was vote yes, spend less. It passed, even though both the Republican Party opposed it and the Democratic Party wasn't thrilled. And ever since it passed, voter turnout went way up because it was on the ballot with all the other elections instead of on a right after St. Patrick's Day in March when nobody's paying attention unless you're a hardcore politics addict like the two of us. So I did that, and in between that and me showing up at the village board meetings, as well as me being on the bicycle pedestrian committee, people kept pushing me to run. So then I ran. And even though I was an active Democrat for years, I even worked on the Jeff Merkley for U.S. Senate campaign in Oregon in 2008, for example. People said, you know what, we like you, but you're not ready to run. But I ran anyways. So the Democratic committee of my village voted 13-4 to not endorse me. And I pissed them off because I took it to the voters and I needed to finish in second place to win. It was me against the incumbent and her running mate, who was a well-qualified, educated lawyer, nice guy. But they thought I had no chance of winning, so they didn't campaign. Spent the whole summer knocking on doors and finished first place when I only needed second. So I did that for 2 years, was the youngest elected official in Westchester County, New York history. But as happens when you're a part-time elected official, you have to have a work-life balance. So it was a little bit too hard to the core. And I needed to finish college as well as get a steady career. So I didn't run again. And then my parents sold the house because I was living with my parents at the time. Could you imagine that? I was living with my parents at my time, had little experience. That was the attack on me. I said, it's true. I won anyways. And then I moved to the Bronx. And as what's happened at every single place that I've lived in since Croton on Hudson, I always find a way to get involved. So I ended up on my local community board in Bedford Park, which is the area right near Fordham University, Botanical Gardens, Lehman College. So I was there as one of the few white people, as well as the handful of other white people are all Albanian. So I definitely stick out. So I was on the community board, and in my second year, I got elected to the executive board. And while I was on the community board and living in the Bronx, I got a job with the city of New York as a 311 operator, which is the non-emergency phone line for New York City. So on top of what I already knew from being elected official, as well as my college education in public administration, I got even more of an understanding of how government works because I was answering all the questions on New York City governance. But while I was doing that, it's 2018, and the Supreme Court had a ruling allowing states to legalize sports betting outside of Nevada. So I started making trips after work on the PATH train to New Jersey to bet on sports and going back, and started realizing I was pretty good at it. I was good at figuring out the numbers. And my uncle works in the horse racing industry. He's a big famous name. And he thought, oh, why don't you pursue something related to this as a career? So I started producing sports betting content. So I did that as part of a startup. But I'm most well known, even though it wasn't a full-time job, unlike the startups I worked for. I had a podcast like yours called 90 Degrees because I was giving the right betting angles. So that podcast was somewhat big among the sharp gambling community. It wasn't a picks podcast. It was a podcast where, and the episodes are still on YouTube, where you have expert sports bettors come in, talk about what they do to win. So I was doing that, and I finally got a job offer. I really wanted to be the person who sets the sports betting odds, which they call being a sports trader. Before it was legal, they used to call it a bookie, but all the Europeans call it trader. They always come up with names to make it sound glamorous. I'm not like the people in the movies that are in the mafia. I'm just a nerd with multiple computer monitors and good at math. So I got my first job as a sports trader working for a daily fantasy site called Prize Picks, coming up with player prop projections. So it's not, there's a team that comes up with it. Most of my job was looking at the bets as they come in, looking at the other sites, and seeing if we have to move the number so the site doesn't lose too much money. So on that job as well, I was focused mainly on the in-game team. So people who are betting during the game. And the sports I covered were WNBA. I became really knowledgeable in WNBA, as well as a fan of it. College football, NBA. NBA was a big one because NBA, the players are running around and getting injured all the time, as well as foul trouble. Games get crazy. So I know you're a Lakers fan. I watched a lot of Lakers for work. So I did that. Now I currently work for a business-to-business odds provider, a company that provides odds for weird and unusual sports. So that's my professional background. Now my advocacy background, because like I say, everywhere I live, I get active in politics. I ended up in Hoboken first when I went to New Jersey with my girlfriend and I. So Hoboken, I'm there. I'm big into biking. That's how I get around. I don't have a driver's license. Although now with this new e-bike, I'm getting my moped license so I can drive my e-bike for the first time ever. So I got my e-bike, my moped license now. So I started commenting about how we need city bike everywhere, including Hoboken, and how I'm so excited. And it's like taking on all the people who are against city bike, taking up car parking spots. And I got recruited by the people in the bike movement. So I got active in the bike movement. Had a falling out with them later on. We'll get to that in a second. So I became active in politics, supporting people I later opposed because they're great on bikes, but I disagree with them on other stuff. And then I got my first big taste of Hudson County vicious politics because right during the pandemic in 2021, right before Thanksgiving, the Hoboken School District announced they're going to do a referendum that would have raised taxes 20% to build a high school on the football field, and the football field would be on top of the high school, and right below the football field would have been an ice hockey rink. And they kept it secret for 3 years, so that grounded my gears because they said, "Oh, we had to keep it a secret," and I knew that was bullcrap from my experience as an elected official. They could have said, "Hey, we need more school space." So I was one of the leaders in the campaign to defeat that school. And the public voted, I think, 65% to defeat that proposed high school. So that was even more overwhelming than when I ran for office, as well as the moving elections to November referendum. So then from there, during that campaign, I met Paul Presenzano, who then was a citizen and an unsuccessful city council candidate because the first time he ran, he lost. Now he's a city councilman because we got hooked up together and we were working on all sorts of advocacy stuff. So I'm like an unofficial advisor to his. I'm always doing like the analytical stuff for his campaign, working on legislation. People like making comments like he controls me or vice versa, but it's actually, we're just like sharp people who question authority. We like frequently disagree, but we like sort of share the similar worldview of being skeptical of certain things. So First Ward, Hoboken Councilman Paul Presenzano is someone I'm very tight with. We do a lot of work together, including, and this is where the bike people part comes, one of the first laws in New Jersey to regulate commercial e-bikes. So I'm a biker and I stop at lights and I take it seriously, but I see bikers of all sorts, not just commercial bikers, but the city bike users too, running red lights, going on sidewalks, going the wrong way. And the First Ward in Hoboken, where Paul represents, when we were knocking doors, it was a big issue because it's the big commercial strip. So we thought with most of the biking action being commercial related, people picking up food for Uber Eats, Grubhub, that we need some sort of legislation to do this. So right when you win, this is the first thing we worked on. And we think, how can we have something where we know every single person that's biking commercially that isn't burdensome? And that's how we came up with TESS and VESS. So that legislation it requires everybody doing commercial e-bike or e-scooter delivery to take a 5-question multiple choice test for $5. And if you pass, you get a numbered vest and you have to wear it when biking. And that's it. It seems like a dream compared to the e-bike legislation that all e-bikers have to follow through, which we'll get to in a minute. So while we were proposing that, I was in the biker group and I was already fighting with them because they didn't like Paul Provenzano that much anyways. So I got booted. They claim I'm not booted, but I got kicked off of their Slack and the cold shoulder from them all the time. So you be the judge if that's considered booted. But they fought us every step of the way. Even though it was mainly white people, they went on about how it's racist to require this and it's burdensome and they're going to be afraid to enter a government office. So we can definitely delve more into that topic, but that's like the short version of who I am. Former elected official, advocate, sports betting odd maker, millennial.
Nice. You got a plethora. Good resume, sir. Let's get into it where I would say many people know you as an advocate, but what do you professionally explain? What do you, well, you do professionally, we know that. You already did that. How has working in sports analytics and odds making influenced the way you analyze politics and government budgets and public policy?
That is a really good question, and I'm glad you asked it. I wasn't expecting it because that's like a really good one. So part of it is I know the value of things, and when I'm wrong, I know I need to quickly correct it because if I'm offering odds on something and it's wrong, all the winning bettors are going to be on one side, and then I get in trouble because the company loses money. So it's all about figuring out how much things are worth, mainly from the wisdom of crowds. So to be a good sports trader or bettor, it's not necessary to know the sport. What you got to do is you got to understand how much things are worth, what the numbers are like, but mainly what the crowds are saying. Who do you listen to? So there's certain sites, most of which are offshore in Panama, Curacao, Europe. Very few American sports books take bets from known winners, but these handful of sites do. And you'll notice when they raise their betting limits or when news comes out, they'll be taking a lot of bets, and you don't know that they're taking a lot of bets, but what you do know is they're changing their lines. So the best sports bettors, the most winning ones, are able to win money because they go to the sports books that don't change their lines quick enough and bet the differences. So you know that if one of these books says the Knicks are going to win by 5.5 points rather than 3.5, if you find 3.5, you know 3.5 is a good number. But there's other places where if Drake is betting $1 million on the Super Bowl, that's not going to move the line because he's Drake and he's not a respected bettor. But if my friend Spanky is betting $500 or a nickel, they will move the line. So in terms of like public policy, I know who are the people where if they say something about public policy or they do something, everybody reacts by changing their opinion or the game plan. Who are the sharp makers? So that's one way of how my sports betting background informs me in the public policy arena. Now, another way is all sorts of quantitative techniques. So even though most of sports betting and being good at it is looking at markets, if you want to do the really hard way of winning, you want to try and model the games. So during COVID, when I was moving into this field professionally and writing articles, there's nothing on TV but Asian baseball. So I built my own predictive models for predicting the results of Asian baseball games based on the lineup order, for each stadium, how many runs, more runs are scored or fewer runs scored compared to the average. So putting those factors in, as well as humidity, because one of the leagues was in Taiwan where you have a lot of humidity, and humidity is good for home runs. As well as that was a league, Taiwan's a good example, because if they just give them any baseball to play with, you're going to have a high scoring game. So to have integrity for the game recently, what they've did is every single baseball sits in a dehumidifier. So there's less scoring. So looking at those effects, or looking at bullpens to see, like, pitchers are one of the biggest variables in baseball. So basically for Korean baseball, Taiwanese baseball, Japanese baseball, each team can only have a certain number of Americans, like usually 3 or 4. And the American is usually the starting pitcher. So once the starting pitcher is out of the game, you're relying on your domestic relievers, who are usually significantly worse. So you want to figure out how long that starting pitcher is going to stay in the game, because that's a big variable. So in terms of like looking at each different factor to see what affects everything and what the result is, testing your conclusions, looking at data. So essentially, it's not just doing guesswork, but it's also doing a lot of research as well. So you're researching a lot of new policies. So, for example, WNBA, other than that it's basketball and women play it, I didn't really know much about WNBA before I started trading it. But then I got really good because I realized each team has certain rotations. So certain team, it's a 40-minute game, unlike 48 minutes for NBA. So WNBA, if you can have 6 players playing 30 minutes a game and they're good, it doesn't matter if the rest of your bench isn't good because they're getting most of the minutes. But then what happens when they get into early foul trouble or they get injured or there's technical fouls, as well as looking at the share of rebounds. So figuring out, that variable as well as some teams aren't as good at playing at an up tempo as NBA. So if a team gets to a 15-point lead pretty early on, it's much different than NBA getting to a 15-point lead early on, which wasn't good enough for the Spurs against the Knicks. The Knicks would just fall behind and then they would get ahead. So, that's, even though it's like sports and a lot of people into politics don't really care about sports, it's the skill set's very useful for determining value as well as doing research and being humbled when you're wrong. Because a lot of people aren't used to ever being humbled. They think they're always right because they talk authoritatively.
Very true when it comes to that. You become a well-known for speaking in Jersey City and Hoboken Council meetings. Why is it so important for residents to attend public meetings and speak directly to elected officials?
Well, speaking from being on the other side of the microphone. So right now I spend all my time talking at the elected officials, but I used to be the one seeing the people come to our meetings. So this is what it looks like when you're the elected official. You are sitting like on a stoop. So you're already like taller than them, but you're looking down and you can't react the whole time. And they're there one by one by one. And if it's only a couple, you can brush it off. But if it's a lot of people and they're angry and they're all saying the same thing, it's really hard to brush them off. So like the school board, for example, or various school boards locally, they have to raise taxes because they have higher enrollment and you don't see the hubbub. Now, what I will say about the school boards is they have less control over their budget because they have mandates. It's not like they can stop teaching gym to save money or they can put 40 people in a biology class. They have more mandates than the city government, but they're still raising the taxes and people aren't really showing up. So they didn't really do much with the budget and they pass it. But the city, they raise taxes and they try to do it quickly and quietly and people start showing up. They sign up one by one. And I missed the first couple of meetings. I think the first one I was in Puerto Rico for vacation, but the meeting where they're finally voting on, which was the viral clip where you discovered me, even though I've been doing my brand of constructive Michigas for years, was I signed up early when people were still paying attention, and I just was ready to fire them up. So for years, I've been going now that I'm not like running for office or elected official, I can be more creative with my props. So I once brought bananas to a Hoboken meeting, started throwing them in the air saying, this idea is bananas. I once brought a 6-foot tall easel and put up a 4-foot Staples printout so you can see what I'm talking about. But this, it was standing room only, 300 people. And I'm a big hip hop fan, so I knew I had to treat it like a battle rapper. And I knew I had to get the crowd active and pumped up and speak in their language. And you have to feel that emotion. And that emotion was they were pissed. So they were pissed that the taxes are going up. The city employees that sort of don't want too many cuts were pissed because they may lose their job to stop the taxes from going up. And the common thread from everybody in that room was that we have this public policy crisis and they weren't involved. This all happened without them. So we're debating the budget for this year, 2026, and it's July 28th right now. So most of the year is over. So they can't really change much of the budget because most of the year already happened. And, first it was we have to vote on this 20% tax hike right now. And it turned out that wasn't the case, but people were ready to do it. And then it was we have to do 15 or 20%. But before we do it, we also have to agree to getting a loan from the state, which seemed good until you actually start reading it. But if I started talking about the loan terms the whole time, people would sleep. But I still had to bring them up. Like any bond over $1 million has to be improved by a state monitor for the next 10 to 15 years, depending on how much they raise taxes. So a lot of construction costs will go up because we'll wait for the monitor to review it. They finally review it, and next thing you know, they're ready to break ground, and construction materials are more expensive, labor's more expensive. You're in a hotel trades union. I made sure to listen to your podcast, check it out. I was in the union when I worked for 311. So I knew that everybody in there was pissed off about different things, but they're all pissed off that they were out of the loop. And my original idea for a prop was, because I had the deal or no deal pun in there. I guess you're going to play the clip. I wanted to get a silver briefcase and open it up and say, I'm not as hot as the models, but here's my briefcase, and it's going to say 20% tax increase. The issue was nobody sells silver briefcases anymore. They're all like, I looked on Staples and Macy's or wherever, and they were all like the boring ones. So,
not even Amazon?
I mean, I think eBay, they had them, but like, the agenda comes out a Friday night. The meeting's on a Wednesday. You got to get it in the mail. And so then I was biking to the meeting. I thought, okay, I know what would work well, a blindfold. So I walk into a bodega, ask for a blindfold. They're like, yeah, you want a bandana? All of them were gang related, like gang colors, and I can't do that. I don't think anyone's going to think I'm a blood or a crip, but I don't want to get into that discussion. But they had a white one. I'm like, perfect. I don't know any gang that uses white. Well, I can think of one, but most people can't. So I got the white one. I had in my pocket. So I'm waiting to do the speeches. I'm like, oh, what if I put it up in my shirt? Say I got something up my sleeve. So I do my regular speech for a minute. And I say, I got something up my sleeve. So then I go up my sleeve, take out the bandana, put it around me. And that's when I won the crowd over, and they were going nuts. And I felt like Bill Clinton up there because I had my speech. I had the short sentences, the alliteration, and it was all about how we asked for transparency and we got something different. And I think that's unlike my other speeches, got more of a response because it was what everybody was feeling in that moment, even if they have different approaches for what to do with the transparency. The city council was feeling it because the city council was left in the dark in a lot of these negotiations. The people who are worried about too many cuts were worried about it because they wanted to get involved. The people who don't want to pay too much in taxes, which is all of us. And I had the whole place rocking. So it passed 9-0, but they're discussing the budget now. I'm still going to keep going to meetings. I have to figure out how I'm going to top that. So I got all sorts of other props I've ordered for future meetings. But I've had other things, like I mentioned the bananas. So the time I brought the easel, because I'm putting all these up slowly on my Instagram, at Public Comment Kev.
Make sure you follow, please.
Make sure you follow, because I'm relatively new to Instagram. I used to be big on Twitter for wheelie bad bikes when I did my videos of bikes breaking traffic rules. But then people stopped going on Twitter, so now I'm on Instagram doing various other content. So I had my other speeches. So I had the speech about Tess and vests, where before it was even policy, I got my own yellow vest at Home Depot and put my own number on it, and I threw on the vest. I said, how are you going to say this law doesn't work? Look at me. I'm a big guy in a yellow vest. Or I talk about bias surveys, and I say this survey is biased, like a survey on the sexiest man alive. And your only two options are Councilman Mike Russo and Kevin Davis. And the only people doing the survey are people that I've dated. And of course, I picked Michael Russo for the example because he doesn't get offended at anything. And it was edgy because you're not expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
You're always expecting something when I step up. You just don't know what it is. Or if it's something I get from a public records request, because I do a lot of public records requests so I can find out what my government's doing. So I guess that's what I have to say about my viral moment. And I'm trying to stay viral because you have all these social media people in Jersey City that people are listening to for local politics, which is amazing because usually no one cares. So you have prevailing sentiment on Instagram. Give her a fire, because the first time I saw her, I was watching a CFL game, and I'm a huge fan of the Canadian Football League. I'm a shareholder for Saskatchewan Roughriders, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders were on national TV. And I started watching her at halftime, and I kept watching. I missed part of the game because her content was more entertaining than the Saskatchewan Roughriders, which is impressive because she's very well-spoken, even though she's new. And people criticize her for not knowing things. But the only time I would say she really gets things wrong occasionally is because the administration isn't very forthcoming. So she's working with the information she has. Another good guy is Seven Alkaline. He is fantastic. He is well-spoken. He breaks things down. He's not menacing. He doesn't have an agenda. So those are like two content creators that are getting a lot of buzz. So if we can just have lots of people making content, bringing up points, you get a situation where instead of the people being afraid of the government's afraid of the people.
I feel that, excuse me, I feel that way too. I put a lot of interview requests formally, not even by DM, just formally through their chief of staff or whatever, and they don't respond. The only one who has responded to me is my current councilman who's come on the show, Councilman Joe Brooks, and Tom Zupa, who has been on the show, who I love. I love the way he does politics. I think he should be a mayor one day. We're jumping the gun, but I was really disappointed when he lost against Borgiano 4 years ago, but he's in there now. He's a lawyer by trade. I love lawyers, good ones at least. And I love the way he does politics. He's just transparent. Like, I didn't even reach out to his people. His people got back to me. No, everything was done directly through him. He's very down to earth, and he stays with his wife and his dog, and he's just a chill, but he fights for the people of Ward C. So shout out to Tom Zupa, and shout out to my current council person, Joe Brooks, for even at least coming on the show. The rest of them, they tell me to think about it or just crickets. And
I'll think about it, so he's coded for no.
Correct. And you work for me. I don't work for you. And look, you don't have to come on the show, but a narrative will be painted about you if you don't. I ask the hard questions. I'm not some of these other, I'm not going to name names, but I'm not some of these other platforms where, your narrative gets pushed out there or whatever, and that's fine. Your narrative can be pushed out there, but
the host ends up getting hired for a government job.
Correct. Yeah. Well,
that's a couple of them.
Yeah, and I'm not in the business of doing that. So with that being said, let's get right into it, into your viral moment. Give me 2 seconds. Let's see. I can do this. Share my screen. Hope everybody can.
It was crazy because I thought the time when I had the rap song that like, that would have been viral.
All right,
It's a parody of "Back That Thing Up" by Juvenile called "Back That Bike Up." I thought I had that, but it was this speech that did it.
Let me see. Hold on.
We got 3 minutes at the microphone. And we got a calendar invite after the meeting ended.
Hold on. Let me bring it back up because I don't think the people see.
Now this is what it's like being a citizen of Jersey City. I got something up my sleeve. We are blindfolded, and we can't see what our city government is doing. We asked to be heard, and we got managed. We asked for a seat at the table, and we got 3 minutes at the microphone. We asked to participate, and we got a calendar invite after the meeting ended. We asked for transparency, and we got a press release. We asked for transparency, and we got talking points. We asked for transparency, and we got a public relations campaign. We asked for transparency, and we got the Jersey City Ministry of Truth. 1984 was 42 years early. We asked for accountability, and we got a spokesperson. How's that serving us? It's serving the administration. We asked for a budget before a tax increase, and we got the proposed tax increase before the budget. We got the seat of negotiation, and we got the final offer. And tonight, we're being asked to play Deal or No Deal, the Jersey City version. And to power you down, we have Mayor James Solomon, who looks like James Franco but 5 inches taller. And tonight, every briefcase says final offer, 15 to 20% tax increase, and unreasonable MOU. Stay sharp, Jersey City. Yeah! Now this is what it's like being a citizen of Jersey.
So, yeah, I'm reliving it. I'm hyped just listening to it, even though I've lived it.
I like the James Franco reference. That's the one that really got me.
Comments about James Solomon's appearance never get old, just like James Solomon.
But let's get back into the questions. So basically, your city council speeches, including the library speech and the banana speech and other memorable appearances, have been attracted attention online. Which speech has had the greatest impact and why?
I would say the speech that's had the greatest impact wasn't even entertaining. Maybe I should put it up anyways. So I'm always pushing for transparency. So one way to keep people honest is to file public records requests. I'm always gathering the information. And later on, I found out more about this from public records requests, but all I knew was it was after the December runoff and before the new year. There was one city council meeting left in Hoboken. And they slipped in a resolution that only needed one vote to pass. I knew procedurally it would normally pass 9-0, nobody ever really paying attention. But I read the agenda. I'm like, oh, okay. And here's what the resolution was for. It would seem benign. Hoboken has a free bus called the Hop. So it was a resolution to do a $50,000 study on it. And this is when we knew, like Jersey City, Hoboken was going to have a budget crunch. But even besides that, I look at the name, and it's a firm called Nelson Nygaard, which doesn't really seem like anything. But because I'm always skeptical of the bike people, and I'm not afraid of going after them because they can't criticize me as anti-bike because I'm on a bicycle more than them. So I can't hate bicycles because that means hating myself. So lo and behold, who works for Nelson Nygaard? One of the board members of Hudson County Complete Streets, who also was a founding board member of Bike Hoboken. So I'm like, aha, I knew it all this time. He moved in here. He was a bike planner, transportation planner, and he was going to try and get these government contracts through his advocacy. So I write an op-ed. And the op-ed got some reaction, and people didn't really know about it. And then I give a speech about who this guy is and how he's connected, because one of the people in the bike movement tried to discredit me, say, oh, this is Kevin. Besides having a grudge against us, Clayton Lane's no longer a board member. He's not involved. He was only involved when we started. Well, he's involved with Hudson County Complete Streets, which Bike Hoboken is a part of. And just a week before this thing was on the agenda, he was in a picture with other bike advocates, and it said, working on better bus quality in Hudson County. So I just held up the photo. I'm like, does this look like he's no longer involved? So that was my only prop, was a photo. But I gave that speech, and they had the vote on it. And the people in favor weren't saying anything. I guess they figured it would pass 9-0. So then the people opposed are like, oh, I like that we have a free bus, but why can't we have our own transportation planners do this study? Why do we have to hire outside people? Nobody brought up what I view it as like a conflict of interest, because how are you supposed to balance the advocates with the city's interests? Nobody brought that up because they did a great point. They only brought up the technical things. The vote happened, and it was 5 votes against the contract and 4 votes for it. And if you look at the video of people's facial reactions when it failed, they were shocked. They thought it was going to pass. And it hasn't been reintroduced yet. So then, of course, I do the Oprahs to find out what the communication was like before and after it. So at first, he wasn't just pushing to do a study on the bus system. He was pushing to do a study on bike share, push a study on like other things related to transportation. So he was pushing other business ideas that wouldn't even get proposed. But the night of the meeting, he wrote an email. Actually, the city wrote an email to him saying that it failed. And he writes an email back 2 minutes later at like 11:34 p.m. when I was partying, but he wasn't. And he's like, okay, let's meet over Zoom. Let's talk about next steps. So he was already like trying to strategize about how he's going to reintroduce it. Now, he still got another contract through the county. So Hudson County Complete Streets did a transit forum. And lo and behold, the moderator is the guy in this forum. And he interviewed one of the people who was deciding on the contract. And lo and behold, there's 4 other people that bid on it, but his company got the contract for studying BRT bus rapid transit on JFK Boulevard, which might be a good idea, but I'm already skeptical because of the nepotism. So we shall see what happens when that study comes out. Craig Guy is a good dude, so maybe he'll be able to balance everybody and be good. But of course, I'm skeptical. So I wasn't able to stop that, but I was able to find out about it. So I know I gave a long answer, but the answer to your question is which speech of mine had the biggest impact. I would say that one was because if I didn't notice this thing, I think it was going to pass 9-0. And then he was going to get more contracts. And I don't think in his career, this person's ever gotten resistance, because usually there's like 80 things on a city council agenda and no one's really paying attention.
How do you prepare for those speeches? Are you carefully researched, spontaneous, or combination of both?
Yeah, so I think, oddly enough, the thing that made me really good at giving speeches was I got a part-time job when I was in between jobs as a New York City tour guide. So I got my New York City tour guide license, which I was in between jobs last year for a bit. And I got a job doing bike tours in New York City. So I'm on a bike. People follow me on the bike. We stop. I talk about things. and I'm never reading my phone or looking at a script. I have to keep them engaged for 2 straight hours with history. And most of them are visitors are from foreign countries. So English isn't their first language. So when English isn't your first language, you get really good at communicating with people in ways that everybody will understand. So you're not using big words, you're talking slowly, you're reading an audience. So doing that made me really good at giving speeches. And other than that viral speech where I only wrote the viral speech out because of my cadence. But if I'm not focused on my cadence and what I'm going to say, I just put an outline in my head, sort of like how Jay-Z doesn't write down his rap lyrics. That's how I'd like to approach speaking at public meetings or leading a tour. I just have an outline in my head. I'm going to say this. It's going to take up 20 seconds. Then I'm going to say this. It's going to take up 40. Then I'm going to say this. It's going to take 40. I'm going to look this person in the eye. I'm going to look that person in the eye. I use humor all the time, not just because I like making laughter, but you're sitting in these meetings for hours. You're bored. The people in the audience are bored. The people on the council are bored. So I got to engage them. So maybe I'll drop a Yiddish word because some people are going to know random Yiddish words because, like me, they had a grandma who spoke Yiddish as their first language. Or I'm going to drop a hip hop reference because I listen to a lot of hip hop. And of course, for me, you would never expect it. Like one Jersey City Council meeting, I was complaining about how they don't respond to my Oprah requests. I said I felt like main source. I was looking at the front door. And they were a rap group in the 90s, and they have a song looking at their front door about how he has arguments with his girlfriend and he feels like he's looking at the front door. So I said that, and a couple of the people on the council who knew that song started laughing because they weren't expecting it. So the first thing I do is not come up with the jokes, is come up with the substance. So I figure out, here's how long I have, here are the points I want to make, and what's the call to action. Once I have the call to action, I say, okay, what are my strongest points? How long does it take to make the strongest points? And then I think, who do I have to persuade? Who is most likely to agree with me, and who's most likely to think I'm insane? And then I kind of try and read the room saying, okay, during the time I speak at the meeting, what's the mood going to be? Are they going to be in a bad mood because everyone's yelling at them? So there's one speech I gave that nobody remembers because the person after me got arrested because it was a tense meeting. It was a Jersey City meeting, April 23rd of last year. And I came to speak about potholes, but everybody else came to speak to complain about Israel, even though it's a city council meeting. So they were just yelling at him all night. It was intense. And I knew I had to break the load. So I was just how am I going to do it? Because I was bringing up a story of potholes, of how I was biking home one night and I had a rare Chinese ingredient I got for 99 Ranch, and I hit a pothole and I thought I ruined the ingredient. But then I realized we have a pothole program. And then I was watching Facebook and a James Solomon campaign ad comes up where he's talking about potholes. And I said, my first reaction was, and this is when I threw it in because I knew I had to win the room because the room was dead. I said, my first reaction is, this guy's hot. And I said that, and the whole place burst with laughter. James is in a good mood. He loves my sense of humor. Yusef Saleh does. And I said, the second point of view is, that's a big pothole if he's able to stand in it. So I thought that was one of the best speeches ever. It didn't change anything but I flipped the room. I put everybody in a good mood. So I thought I saved the meeting for everybody, that we were going to be able to talk about local issues and everything. But then the next speaker went up and he was really upset about the conflict in Gaza. And he's like, I'm going to make sure that if you guys do this, I'm going to make your guys' life miserable. And one of the council members like, you know what? You got to calm down with the threats. And he goes, F you. But he actually says the F word. So then they asked him to leave. He won't. So then they shut down the meeting for 15 minutes and call the cops. Wow. So somebody getting arrested is the only thing that can cut my vibe. If you're not getting arrested, you can't stop the Kevin Davis train.
Oh my goodness. Only in Jersey City.
And of
Um,
course, I bring up James Solomon's looks because if I'm a man talking about another man, it won't offend anybody. But somebody didn't realize I was joking, and they sent me a message trying to go on a date. It was a man. I'm like, I'm not gay. I just like talking about other men's appearances. But I can be your wingman at any gay bar of your choice, and you'll get lucky because all my gay friends get lucky when I'm involved. I'm the best wingman around. But I'm not going to out the other person who did it. I respect the hustle.
got it. That's
It's the
funny.
best compliment in the world, too.
Yeah.
I went to my
funny.
girlfriend like, hey, guess what?
Have elected officials ever reached out privately after one of your speeches? If so, what kinds of conversations have taken place?
Oh, yeah, all the time. So some of them I already know, but the ones I don't, they start to reach out. So in a place like Jersey City, usually it's the staff member that reaches out first. So like Paul Presenzano, for example, because I knew him before he was an elected official when he was running, he reached out because I was in a meeting. He knew I didn't support him in the election, but he liked what I had to say, so he reached out to work with me. That's how he won me over. Like Paul gives a master class in winning people over that aren't on his side all the time. Like when we did the delivery biker legislation, one of the delivery bikers who came to complain about it, he got in touch with him, and Paul's brilliant idea. I encouraged him on it, but this was Paul's idea. A lot of Paul's ideas are mine, but this was all Paul. Was people kept saying he doesn't understand what it's like to be a biker, to be a delivery person. So guess what he did? He got a job with Uber Eats and Grubhub delivering food on a bike. And he ordered a bike. So the one who kind of taught him how to do the job was this other delivery biker who came. So Paul decided to do it wearing a vest. He put a number on it because he wanted to promote the law. So he was biking all over Hoboken doing deliveries. And people thought, what is this person in his early 50s who's a retired Wall Street trader doing, delivering pancakes and waffles? But then he was able to say, this is what it's like to be a biker, and this is how it works. Now, going back to your question of who else has reached out to me. So Paul is a masterclass because he does it with everyone, not just me. And that's how I got in his bubble. Another good example is Danny Rivera, who's not on the council anymore. He saw one of my speeches about how I'm a biker and I'm upset about bikers on the sidewalk. And we need to enforce the laws more, but we still need a protected bike lane on Franklin Avenue. And even though he was against the Franklin Avenue protected bike lane, which eventually is going to be built, he reached out. He's like, "Oh, I like your speech. We should talk." So that's one. Richard Boggiano's staff reached out as well, and they didn't even know the full story that all the people who really don't like him really don't like me as well. So his staff reached out after a speech. If you're not raving, most of the time they are going to reach out with you if you make an impact, and sometimes you got to reach out to them. So that's one example. During the high school referendum in Hoboken for the high school that would have raised taxes 20%, one person reached out to me to correct my misinformation. And I'm like, okay. But most of the time when elected officials reach out, because elected officials are great at having charisma and getting everyone to like them. So they will try and reach out with open arms and trying to persuade you. And I was impressed. I've never had a conversation with Tom Zupa in my life, but he followed me on Instagram the other day. So obviously I'm making some sort of a dent, I think. Because I don't know, because I always speak and I can see who's laughing, which is like, even the ones who don't agree with a lot of things I say are always smiling and laughing. But Zupa's always very stone-faced. So I don't know if he's digging it or he isn't.
He's a great guy.
But he started following me on Instagram. Shout out to Tom Zupa. I think he's a mensch so far. I like that he's asking the hard questions. So he reached out. Rolando Lavaro's staff reached out, actually not just to me, but at the meeting for the Franklin Avenue bike lane when he was the only one to vote against it, which of course I didn't like. I like the Franklin Avenue protected bike lane, but I respect that he voted against it when everyone voted for it. But the thing I respect the most is he had his staffer in the audience handing out a clipboard for every single person who spoke for or against and asked for their name and phone number so he could talk to them. So I'm like, okay, this guy Rolando's legit. As well as the fact that I see he does his homework. He asks the questions. He knows the finances. Because right now, even though we have people like Zupa that are new and really good, we only have 3 people on the city council that before this year were ever elected officials. Like everyone's a rookie. And the only 2 people from the last council are Educational Gilmore and Denise Ridley.
Not a fan of. Go
ahead. Which one? Gilmore or Ridley?
Oh, Ridley, she knows it. Her staff knows it too. I've invited him on the show. And Gilmore recently, he's the one who, for full transparency, told me that he will wait and see about coming on the show. But then I see him on social media on his own show. So as long as he's in the safe space, in his spot, which he can do his own show, that's his business or whatever the case may be, but that's a safe space. And they're all in a clique. Those former, outside Rolando, because Rolando actually fights for the people, but those 2, the council president and the council pro, whatever it is called, the whatever that's 90 and 90, Mr. 90 and $95,000 a year, which I don't understand why they're getting that. That's another story for another time. But yeah, Gilmore is starting to get a nasty taste in my mouth as he matures in the council. He's not what he started out to be with the advocacy and stuff like that. And I'm starting to see him, people, you're going to get criticism anyway. You know this, being in the public eye. Everybody's not going to like what you do, but for you to snap back at people, like with Erica Woods, I don't know if you know her. She's been on.
I saw your episode.
And
I didn't know anything about her. I saw the episode. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and it's
good.
Allegedly, so he doesn't come after me and try to sue the show because I don't have no money. But he called her poor, and I spoke to her about it. And like, excuse me, sir, you were incarcerated. You have a great story. He was on Ellen. Ellen gave him a Sprinter to help the kids out. Because he worked for recreation. Now he's a councilman. He's turned his life around. I'm not knocking him, but we be humble. Be humble. It is as fast as it got to you. I know this is year 5 for him. It can be in the next 4 years, the carpet can be pulled from under you. Trust me, because, and I don't even live in Ward F, but I know people who live in Ward F. So be humble.
Well, here's what I would say about Gilmore, because I've gotten to start to get to know him.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I live on the Jersey City Heights. So it was like before I knew him, but I was going to city council meetings and I wanted to bike to the light rail cafe because I really wanted some oxtail, and I'm a really good cook and I can't really make oxtail that well.
Fun fact, who's owned by his predecessor, former councilman Jermaine Robinson.
Coincidentally, I just read they had the best oxtail. I didn't know it had a political connection, so I went and I city biked. So I was walking back to the bike station, had my headphones in, was listening to some aggressive Wu-Tang Clan, and I heard a voice, Kevin! And who is it? Educational Gilmore on the basketball court playing basketball. Now his basketball isn't that good, even though he's tall. Just because he's tall doesn't mean he has any talent. But then I'm like, oh wow, he actually knew who I was. We were talking. So we started to build a little relationship with that. And his staff, I think, are really responsive. So for example, Tina Knowles, I really love.
One of them,
usually when people work for an elected official, they try and tame them. You say, oh, you can't do this because it makes me look bad. Educational Gilmore doesn't give a fuck. I know maybe I shouldn't. I say that in a positive way, because his staff members have strong opinions, and he doesn't do anything to shut them up. And I think that's amazing. And
His chief of
sometimes they
staff,
come
too,
across a little
Erica
too strong,
Walker. You're right. Go ahead.
but they are real. So
Mhm.
Tina, for example, as well, she has these great community events at the Teen Walker Community Center, a monthly bingo event. And I went to my first one, which was a Mother's Day bingo. So I was the only guy there besides Frank Gilmore. And as everybody just bring your own beverage. So everyone was getting drunk, but they were donating money to charity. And it's just a wonderful community building experience. Now, in terms of like, I forgot to mention when I speak and I do things, who's reached out to me. I was giving a speech about how I Oprah'd the resumes for all the city council staffers. And I never met Erica at the time. I only knew Tina Knowles. And Erica sought me out in the audience, gave me her business card, saying, call me tomorrow. And I called her tomorrow. She's like, yeah, I agree with you. City needs to be more transparent. I can give you the resumes. So I'm like, okay, Erica Walker, she's a real one. And then like another great example of Gilmore's office getting back to me is I also wrote an email to the entire city council, all their staffers, James Solomon, complaining about the Oprah response teams. My city councilman, Jake Efros, didn't respond back. I don't count because I opposed him when he ran, because I think the Democratic Socialists of America are a cult, even though I like some socialist ideas, like strong unions and single-payer health insurance. So
clip that. By the way,
Efros, I did a reaction video too. So so Efros didn't respond. The other council members didn't respond, but one person did. Erica Walker. Erica was like, Kevin, you bring up some good points. Because I gave some like constructive things for making the Oprah response faster. Ways to use technology, redacting documents. And now, besides Erica Walker, I did get one other response. Actually, it's from James Solomon. So I'm like, okay.
As mayor or councilman?
As mayor.
Okay.
So I don't know if he's going to actually improve the Oprah system. I'm a skeptic. Why would he improve it now when we get to find out more about what he's up to as mayor? But hey, he responded. So that goes back to your question before of who's ever responded. So like the Gilmore staff and Gilmore himself, they do respond to people. I think he might be like me, where he has ADHD and sometimes he forgets things. So I think he might have to get on his case, show up and see him play basketball. So that's my opinion. I think if you hound him, he'll eventually come on and it'll be a great interview. And I think the two of you will vibe really well. Because he isn't like these cookie cutter people that speak in terms that only they understand, and they don't really care about the population at large. And I think Frank is one of those people who wants to be liked by everybody, and he talks to everyone. It doesn't matter where you are in the totem pole. And I think other politicians in general, they only care if you're like a connected activist or you have a lot of money to donate. And I think, even though I don't agree with anybody 100% of the time except for me. So even though he's done things vote-wise that I may not agree with, I think in terms of his emotional IQ, he's fantastic at being a city councilman. So you just got to get on him. Now, Denise, she's always been nice to me, but I don't have anything strong, positive, or negative to say about her.
Got it. No. I will definitely put more pressure on. Maybe I'll reach out to Erica directly because she's very responsive. Sometimes you have to go through the middleman to get to, the person that you want to speak with. Denise in Ward A, I have family who lives in Ward A, and I lived in Ward A before. And prior to being her council president, she's just like MIA. It's like speak to my, like a lot of some. Now, this is my opinion of her. Well, this is facts, really, because that's what we only talk about here on Grayson Politics Live. And she has a great staff, but they are very critical if you don't talk nicely about her. They do a lot of her work. Now she's being more transparent that she is council president. She's putting videos out there and stuff like that. Excuse me, and excuse my French. Well, we talk candidly on here. The shit that she was supposed to be doing 8 years ago when she was on the council under Full she's doing now because Brandy Warren, who ran against her, who was under McGreevy's ticket, who came close of 234 votes, really gave her a run for her money in the runoff. And so now I think she's kind of learning her lesson. I do see her more out there, especially as now that she's been voted as council president. Would really have liked Rolando to have been council president again, but in a perfect world, I digress. But with her, she says I'm out there one time during the campaign trail. She's like, oh, I took a trip to Boston and to see what they were doing over there, and it was a day trip, and for Jersey City, like excuse me, what the fuck does Boston have to do with Jersey City? Like, whatever they're doing or whatever, and I hope it was on your dime, not the taxpayer dime, because we ain't got money.
We ain't got Oprah that. You can Oprah her staff expenses and look at the claim.
I should. But day trips to Boston, I don't give it two shits. Like Bayside Park is what you call them. She's like, oh, I got $1 million to put up for a community center. What community center that you know is gonna be built for $1 million? Like, seriously. Like, so there's Garfield Avenue is full of potholes. Like, I live in Ward B. So like, it's not for me not to say I don't give a shit, but I have family members who live over there. I lived over there, and Garfield Avenue is still like, with the car, it's still, even though I don't drive, I ride in Ubers and I have a car. People will drive me when I do, and it's still disgusting. And I know you as a biker, you know this. And
you hit him, it's like boom.
Yeah. Forget it.
Small.
Yeah, and like half of the road with that new canal land that they have it's indented indented outward. So it's like, really, you only have one lane over there when you're going past that canal crossing, that land that they have open there that he wants to Solomon, wants to put $1,000 rents there and stuff like that. And I'm not objective to that. And now I see, a lot of people were criticizing McGreevy. And for full transparency, I voted for Solomon. My union supported him. I'm just a little disappointed because a lot of the shit that he said during the campaign trail, the transparency is, like you said in your speech, is not there. And like, for example, he should have never been, him and his finance director, and I see where the council is like caught with their pants down and pissed off. Like, why is Joe Brooks, who I will have on the show again, Little, and Ephros so big on voting for something that they didn't even see the MOU for? And
you want me to get started for that on that one?
Yeah, and so with that being said, like after my thought, most definitely go in. But like that didn't make any sense. Like, you didn't even see the MOU for this shit. And then the governor and all this, I even reached out to the state comptroller. She politely declined. She did her office reached out back to me, because she's the only one who can go after Full. Really, she has the power to go after Full. So I invited her on the show for one, for that, and two, I wanted her to break down the finances of the loan and everything like that. But like, how are you voting on something? Zupa, he was like, and Lavaro, they were like, we don't know what's in this. Why are we voting for something that we don't know? And so you should have had the council in these negotiations when you were negotiating this with Cheryl's office and the state. And that's what I don't like that he did. I will knock him for that. Don't do stuff like that, because now you're looking like you're full up 2.0 when you're doing sneaky stuff. Full up with sneaky. And you don't do stuff like that. You don't. The council is the one who, that's why you have government body, and you don't have someone to, the executive branch just do whatever the hell they want. And so he should have got the council involved. Now they're involved. Now they're having all these meetings, getting us involved. And it's just messy. I didn't like that. So if he's watching, whether he's not watching, I'll post the clips or whatever. James, Mr. Solomon, Mayor Solomon, don't do that again, please. Be very transparent going forward. You got 3-4 more years left. If you want a second term, you got to do better with that.
Yeah, so like part of it, I think, with the council is you have the executive where they do certain things and not getting micromanaged. So they get to pick who gets hired, but the council sets the budget. And you think of divided government, and it's kind of hard to have divided government in Jersey City because everyone's elected on the same year, on the same ballot for a 4-year term. So because Solomon got so much of the vote, every single person he endorsed won, because you look mathematically, the correlation coefficient is pretty high between showing us positive correlation between the higher Solomon the vote percentage was, the higher his endorsed candidate's vote percentage was. So Ward E, he's looked at as God because that's where he was councilman. So Eliana Little, she ran against, I think, like 5 other people. She won without a runoff. Gilmore was on the Solomon slate, as well as he's a force of his own. He won without a runoff. So then he had 7 others. And all those 7 others won. Like, you look, it's...
he inherited Zupa and Brooks from O'Day's campaign, and Efros.
Well, Efros was independent of anybody's campaign.
Oh, okay.
He was just straight up independent and Democratic Socialists of America. Joel is a DSA member who has their endorsement, but was on O'Day's slate. So he inherited them as well. But then after the elections, like, okay, we're on the council. 6 of us represent wards. 3 of us represent the whole city. We're going to think on our own. So at least 5 of them showed that they're separate from Solomon on some things. Mamta, I don't really know where she goes, because the conventional wisdom is she's a Solomon person, but she's not a social Democratic Social of America. Now, originally we were under the impression that there's 2 members of the Democratic Socialists of America on the Jersey City Council, just Jake Efros and Joel Brooks. Mm-hmm. And when they were running, I was voicing my concerns in op-eds about the Democratic Socialists of America, because I was talking about the stuff on their party platform. It's not just a debate of whether socialism good, because that's what Fox News does. Mm-hmm. There's some socialist stuff I like as an old school Democrat that used to be in a labor union, still a Democrat. I like the idea of having a healthcare system that's not for profit. I like the idea that rich people pay more in taxes than people who make less money. All those things. But you look at the DSA platform, and there's not room for ideological diversity. So they have it. If you're seeking their endorsement, like, not only do you have to commit to mentioning that you're a socialist as much as possible, but to be a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, there's all sorts of things they have to agree to. So if you're a police officer or a corrections officer, you're not allowed to be a DSA member. Now, I understand there's a lot of structural issues with law enforcement, but not all cops are bad. There's the cops that like do the SVU stuff on the TV show. There are the cops that, work in victim advocacy. They're not all correction officers that are corrupt. It's like, come on, correction officers like have a pretty bad track record, because when I was doing 311 calls, you got tons of complaints against correction officers, and a lot of prisoners calling about how they had a slip and a fall and they need medical attention. But I knew they didn't have a slip and a fall. They got snuffed by somebody. So anyways, law enforcement has issues, but if you're in law enforcement, you can't be a DSA member. So there's no room for nuance on that. If you have family in Israel or you support having a Jewish state, regardless of whether you agree or disagree with the current government in Israel or not, you can't be in the DSA. So you have all these rigid things, but you also have what's known as the Socialist and Office Committee, which nobody really knows about, but I do because I have my ear to the ground. So I'm clipping this. So the Socialist and Office Committee, if you're an elected official as a DSA member, and there's other elected officials that are DSA members, you have to regularly meet with the Socialist and Office Committee. And the members of this group, anybody who's DSA, because these meetings are DSA members only. If you're a non-DSA member and you try to show up, they throw you out. I was able to sneak into one meeting once, but then they tightened up things, so I couldn't get in. But I still know about it because I'm the man. So the members say these are our positions, and then as well as agreeing to the will of the socialist membership, you also have to vote in a block with all other socialists in office. So you think, okay, we have just two. Well, it turns out we have a third one. So Eliana Little did not run with the DSA endorsement or tell anyone she's a socialist. But lo and behold, that meeting I snuck into, Eliana Little's like, I'm a DSA member. And she's putting her name on all these statements. So it's like she's a Democratic Socialist of America member, but she didn't run as one. So now she's voting in a block with these other two. And then the people who, so you have like the general membership, they get the vote, just like when you're a union member and you get the vote and you have the shop stewards. But the leadership roles, a lot of them are the staff members of the DSA members. So the staff members, some of them are very involved. Two of them wrote one of the resolutions. I don't know if it's the one that passed. My intel isn't so good on this one. But they wrote the resolution forming the Socialist and Office Committee and setting the rules. But basically, if you stray from this committee, they can withhold their support if you run for re-election. So that when you have a nonpartisan government, no Democrat, Republican, all that stuff, when you have nonpartisan, you expect, okay, you have independent thinkers and they represent everybody, but this is like even more partisan than Washington, D.C. So you have those three members who are that, and you have six that, while they're on the same political alliance in December, are more fungible. And in addition to those three council members who are DSA, you have State Assemblywoman Katie Brennan, who didn't campaign as DSA, but she's also, I found out, a dues-paying member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and she attends some of their meetings, as well as her chief of staff is a DSA member who also works for one of the council members. So I will say, Joel Brooks, I saw him on your show, and even though I'm not a fan of some of the Michigas, I actually saw him. I'm like, okay, I might consider voting for this guy if he wasn't part of this group, because he seemed to be asking hard questions and being serious and researching things and having good values. But I think, and it's not just a left or right issue, because it's what they try to make it out as. I think if you're in that group, it's disqualifying. And then there's people in the Democratic Socialists of America, and they refer to the DSA right. And in that category, they call Bernie Sanders and AOC the DSA right. And they're the most like left-leaning members of Congress. So if there's people in their coalition that consider that too conservative, as well as there's people who openly describe themselves as Leninists or Maoists. I'm not even making it up. I can send you the proof after the show. Then I think that's an issue for local governance, and people need to start asking questions. And who knows, you can even try going to a DSA meeting and seeing what happens. Right? You can say, I'm a reporter at Grayson Politics Live, let me in. And because they have these meetings much of the time in the Jake Efros office, which isn't paid for with our money, because I thought he would be a rookie and he would use taxpayer money to pay for his office, and then I can force my way in. But all the expenses to his office are from his ELEC account, $2,500 a month. So I will give him that. He gets his own private office space that we have to wait for him to be nice enough to go in. Now he's going to say, well, I have these town halls. And that was part of my reaction video that got me triggered. Yeah, he has town halls, but I don't feel like the town halls or the office hours are anything of substance compared to these socialist and office committee meetings. And I had a connected person reach out to me after that reaction video, be like, is it true? How does it work? And then I told him, and I think his jaw is still on the floor, this insider. I'm not going to out him, but I'm going to say,
no, don't.
Lots of people do not know what's going on.
That is crazy. For full transparency, recently I'm a registered independent. Now you can register yourself as an independent in New Jersey, because I lean towards the Democrats, but I definitely don't agree with everything that they do. So I'm a registered independent. But during the primaries, they make me choose, which is I find very weird. But during the general, I can still vote as independent. But that's some crazy work, and I'm gonna have to look into that and follow up with that. And that I don't appreciate stuff like that that they do. The secretiveness, like everything should be full transparency.
Oh, this is great. Somebody at the bottom says, "Are you taking questions from the crowd? Let's have him rip one."
Yes,
even though no, that's your role as the host.
Let's go. No, by all means. Oh yes, most definitely. Yes, most definitely. We are. So feel free to write in the comments, and
even if the question is, did it hurt when he fell from heaven and landed on your face? You're so ugly, Mr. Davis.
We will put your comments up, and then and answer them to our best ability. Let's see what's here.
Oh, this is a good one.
Michelle Gwynedd serves as the district director of New Jersey Assemblywoman Katie Brennan and Assembly Ravi Bala. That's the former mayor of Hoboken, right?
Who's my state assemblyman now.
And is Bala involved with the DSA as well?
To my knowledge, right? Because I thought Katie Brennan was in DSA, so I don't know what to believe anymore. But Ravi Bala is not involved with DSA because I never saw his name mentioned. Right? So he's a Democrat who used to be mayor of Hoboken, and he ran with Brennan on the same slate. Mm-hmm. But and I like that point that yes, Michelle Genge. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's been a long time organizer with them. She was a delegate for Uncommitted, and Uncommitted, you remember, they were running people for president, and they weren't going to support the Democratic nominee until they felt the Democratic nominee was against funding Israel or other demands related to the Israel-Palestine thing, which I think is white privilege, because it's not like Trump is a pro-Palestinian advocate, and there's a lot of people who have much more to lose if Trump were to win, which he did, than if he would lose. So, but yeah, so Bala definitely doesn't employ people that are related to DSA, but he's not at the moment DSA himself, and he wasn't DSA when he was mayor. Now, I butted heads with him a lot when he was mayor. And I don't really regret any of it. Even though I got under his skin a couple times. Like I wrote one op-ed where I talked about parking tickets and how somebody alleged they had parking tickets and he got him thrown out because he used his title as mayor. And he called the newspaper to complain about my op-ed. But yeah, I mean, I don't have evidence that Bala is a DSA member, but I see it where they have people run for office with the endorsement, and there are people who get elected and then they jump over and become it. And of course, my beef is I view them as exclusionary. That's sort of like they're the cool kids table, and you have to be one of them to sit there. And you should just be grateful they acknowledge your existence. It's sort of like the anti-Gilmore. Like Gilmore doesn't have these closed door meetings on his own. Mm-hmm. Like I've been to his town halls, his community caucus, and I felt like, oh wow, I was listened to because I brought up something on the agenda I was concerned about. His office listened to me, and it got pulled. Right, so that's why I'm not so quick to throw him under the bus. That's one of the reasons why.
No.
Yeah, keep those questions coming if anyone else from the crowd has anything.
Yeah, go right ahead. This is an interactive show. We definitely love it. Otherwise, I'll continue on with my questions, but I'll definitely keep an eye out for your questions. Keep them in the comments. Do you believe advocacy changes policy, or is its greatest value educating and motivating the public?
Well, I think advocacy changes policy because you're motivating the public, because the elected officials work for the public. So if you get enough of them motivated, then they're going to listen to you. But yes, certainly on the local level, and this is why I keep doing it, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, is because the advocacy works. You just have to keep plugging away. Some of the time it won't, some of the time it will work. Some of the times you have advocates pushing for other things. Just like I was advocating for the delivery biker licensing, and the bike advocates were pushing against it with anything they could. Oh my God, it's racist, and it's going to give police an opportunity to profile. And then I every single day just put up a video of bikers on the sidewalk. Or I'd put a few together. This is why I should have been on Instagram then. I would have like music videos. I'd play like Riding Dirty by Chameleonaire for 15 seconds and I'd have like the bikers popping up. It's good. So I was just standing there filming. Other people would film, send me video clips. But yeah, advocacy, it only doesn't work when you have nobody running for office, so there's no threats to somebody's power. So then they can do whatever they want without it. So it's not like the elected officials at hand are going to listen to you because they're great people. They listen to you because their survival depends on it.
Although you are a cyclist, you've been critical of parts of the bike advocacy movement. Why do you disagree with some of its positions?
Yeah, so I brought up the other thing so not just the things about e-bike safety, and protecting people from e-bikes, not just cars, of course, are the biggest threats to pedestrians and bikers, but that doesn't mean that bikers aren't a threat to pedestrians are themselves. So one thing is they really freaking hate cars. And one of their ideas that they have a well-crafted message of a lot of academic literature is that we have too many cars for too few parking spots. And we're a city with great transit. So rather than build more parking, what we should do is we should make parking more expensive. So that way people are going to be discouraged from driving. So it sounds good. And one of their ideas to do this, and I wrote an op-ed about it, and people felt really strongly either for or against it. But the bike advocates came out and they said, we got a budget deficit. Here's a great idea we have to close it. And one of their ideas, which I went apoplectic about and got triggered. And I know they've been working on it for years. I've been trying to stop them. And they're trying in Hoboken too. Is currently it's $20 a year to park on residential only parking spots if you're a Jersey City resident, which of course is nothing. But you live here, you're already paying taxes. And most places it's like free or close to free. They're like, we think it should be $240 a year. So that's $220 more a year. So now if you're in downtown, okay, you probably can afford it. Like if you have a Bentley, well, nobody has a Bentley anymore. If you have a Mercedes or you have a Tesla.
This is for permit parking, Kevin?
For permit. But imagine this is for all residents. An extra $220 a year on top of what they're paying extra in taxes.
No.
But imagine if you live somewhere else in town, you're making $60,000 a year, and you have a used car. That's hurting you a good deal compared to the other ones. So I stepped in and said, "Whoa, this is too much." So that's one thing I disagree with them on, and I think that's going to be an upcoming fight. And I think they might have the votes on the city council because Eliana Little is authoring a parking reform ordinance. So in my mind, based on how the DSA works, that's 3 votes automatically. Especially because I know that Brooks and Efros were endorsed by Safe Streets PAC, the Biker Political Action Committee. Mamta was endorsed by them. At least Ridley was. But I'm interested in seeing her because I think her ward is hurt more than the other ward. Joel Brooks, for example, too. My analysis showed that he represents the most rent burden areas in the city. So they may have to compromise on things. But I think they don't want to stop at 240. I know a couple of them, they want it to be $500 a year. Keep in mind, it's currently $20 a year, plus an extra $80 a month if you have an oversized vehicle. So, yeah, I don't like, I consider myself a progressive, someone who cares about that, think that people who make more money should pay more money, and people that make less money should pay less money. As someone who believes in something like that, that goes against the core of like my core political beliefs, even though it benefits me. If fewer people are driving and I'm biking, that benefits me because it makes it safer, but it hurts other people. So I think the way to get more people to bike, first of all, is you build more protected bike lanes. So even the regular bike lanes where you just put down paint and no barrier are safer than no bike lane at all. But the bike advocates also, they cite studies that say no bike lane at all is safer than a bike lane without a barrier. But the real good bike lanes that are amazing, that get opposition, are when you have plastic cones or concrete in between the bike lane and the car lane. Or you have your bike lane next to the curb, and next to the bike lane, you have the parked car. So the parked car gives you protection from the driving cars as you're biking. So that's a great way to make it safer for bikers. That's something amazing to work on, and there should be more of those. So that's why I was originally a bike person, well, one of their bike people. But that doesn't mean I agree with their other ideas, because I know they want to do just like New York City has congestion pricing, where people pay the same amount of money to drive into New York City regardless of how much they make. But Ubers and Lyft are exempt from it because they're powerful corporations. So they're able to slip in an exemption.
Exempt from it? I remember.
Yeah, Uber and Lyft, it's only a $2 surcharge for congestion. It's not the surcharge if you're driving in your car yourself. They want to put that in Jersey City. They also want to increase the taxes for out-of-towners parking in garages, which I agree with. I think if you don't live here, then it's like, okay, we should make more money from you for parking, because you shouldn't have the benefits of paying less for a good unless you live here. But I think, so, that's, to answer your question, it's not just regulating bikes and thinking that bikes should be registered. Although there's a new e-bike registration law, which I don't like, because it's different than test and vest. That you do in one day. Because I got my bike registered. I go to the MVC. I have to show proof that I bought the bike. I had to buy insurance, because my bike is considered a moped, because it has a little thing I flick where without pedaling, it goes 15 miles an hour. So that's considered a moped now. So I had to get insurance, liability insurance. I mean, yes, I can hurt somebody, but I don't think $50,000 worth of damage. But anyways, I had to get up to, I think it's $30,000 worth of damage. I don't remember what the requirement was, but my policy is $50,000 worth. But of course, because I bought insurance, I also bought an other coverage. So I got coverage for if my bike gets stolen, I can get a new bike. If I need roadside assistance, I got other goodies. But like, okay, I have to get insurance. I have to show proof that I bought it. I have to wait in line at the MVC. So I had to do that. But also, because I'm a city person without a driver's license, I had to go to MVC, bring the paperwork, and get a e-bike license. And it's funny, I'm a moped license. Sorry, they call them interchangeably. So in September, because right now it's just a permit, so that means I can't bike at night unless I'm riding a city bike. A city bike is exempt from this law. City bike was like, this is going to kill us. The city bike got an exemption. So in September, I'm going to have to ride around cones and park my bike and do a test. And if I fail that, I don't know what that says about a biker test, because I'm a bike tour guide. I'm biking all the time. I'm biking to get my groceries. Like, if anyone knows how to ride a bike, it's me. So I can report back, because that would be comedic if I fail. But Like, I think test and vest is the best approach. Something like that, you just want it simple. Like, why can't somebody walk in one day? Like, why do they need a road test? Just give them a permit test, because I had to take the permit test. Give them a permit test just so they know the rules of the road and that they acknowledge them, and then register your bike. And then here's the other thing. You register your bike, they give you a little sticker to put on the car that's like a license plate number, but it's so tiny and microscopic. Like, you have to be right next to the bike to see it. Like, I would ideally want license plates on the bikes. I mean, it's hard to figure out where to put them, but they can figure out something like put a license plate under the seat and in the front on the front fork, right? Because then if they did that, I would say, okay, let's get rid of test and vest in Hoboken, because then we don't need them put numbers on the vest. Because the bike advocates were pushing really hard to get the numbers taken off of delivery vests in Hoboken. So the law passed, and they're like, well, our compromise is you have to wear a vest, but it doesn't have a number on it, because we feel that's like branding them, and that they don't have to take a test because we don't want them in a government register. Now, they made headway in Jersey City because James Solomon was put something up just like test and vests, but he's really tight with the bike people. So they sat him down, his staff down, and yelled at him, said, you need to take these numbers out off of the vests. You need to involve us. And next thing you know, he amends the legislation, and they took numbers off the vest, as well as they required the company to register all bikers and not the bikers themselves, which makes no sense because the bikers are independent contractors who work for multiple different places. So, like, that's why you see nobody wearing vests in Jersey City either. Now in Hoboken, you see some, but you don't, because they passed it in Hoboken to shut us up, but they didn't actually implement it. They, like, the only reason people wear vests in Hoboken is myself and Councilman Paul Provenzano. When we saw the city wasn't doing anything, we walked to each delivery biker we saw and we told them about the law, and then they started going into City Hall and registering. So that like debunked the argument that just because a lot of the delivery bikers are not here legally, they're undocumented, that they're not going to follow the law. They follow the law. They show up, they got their delivery biker license, they got their the e-bike license or whatever we call it. But there's a couple officers in Hoboken that like the work myself and Paul Provenzano are doing, so they enforce it. But other than that, the administration, the previous one, Bala, and the current one, Jabor, don't like it. But you know what we've seen so far, and right now it's June 28th, so it's 9 days since the law went into effect on July 19th, is over 8,000 people statewide have registered their e-bikes, because every single local police department has marketed that there's this law coming and you got to register. So it shows that even if the law is crappy, which Test and Vest isn't, people are still going to do their best to comply with it. Right. And when I was registering my bike, there were other people there who were registering their e-bikes with foreign passports. So just because someone may not be comfortable going to a government office because of their immigration status, they still want to comply with the law. They still are, like, just like people who are undocumented who send their kids to school. They're also dealing with the government function.
Wow, that's interesting. I think it's a money, in my personal opinion. I think from Mikey Sherrill's standpoint, from the state standpoint, it's a money grab.
Yeah.
That extra revenue for the state. It's sad because extra revenue for the state, but then I wonder if I should put an Oprah see if she has the insurance companies in her pocket, because
and you don't need an Oprah for that either.
Yeah, because New York,
the sponsor of the bill in the state Senate, he represents insurance companies as part of his district.
See, because New York and New Jersey have one of the highest, most in corruption too, insurance in the whole 50 states in the whole union. So that doesn't make any sense to me, to money grab to have insurance. I get there's been accidents. I work in the city where I'm broadcasting. Normally I'm broadcasting from home, but today I'm broadcasting from work. Yeah, I've seen some coworkers. I've lost a coworker recently on former coworker on the Queensboro Bridge. He lived in Jersey City. Uh, Unfortunately, passed away because of it. It is an issue, but I look at it as a money grab with the insurance component of it. They're getting theirs. They're getting more people, like you said, 8,000 registered. And then the police departments, they're getting theirs. So it's a three-way deal. If you don't comply to it, you're getting a part of their quota and possibly getting your bike impounded like they do it over here in New York. So yeah, I'm not a big proponent of it. There's a bad apple with every bunch. I've opened my car door and like had to look because you'll see a Uber Eats or Grubhub person, and then they're on the e-bike, and then they'll sit to the side, like they're not pedaling, but they'll sit to the side or whatever, and their leg is over here, and I'm like, dude, like ride the bike, like at least, like what are you doing? But they'll knock your car door off if they don't, and they don't really care, and they'll keep going. So I do believe certain measures need to be taken, but not to this extent.
Yeah, and I do want to bring up something about the dooring because that's a frequent injury of bikers. So, like, one issue is when you're riding the bike, you have to always look out for, like, if a car is parked and there's somebody about to leave because you have to get to the center of the lane quickly. So people complain when there isn't a protected bike lane about bikers riding in the middle of the road when there's a bike lane. Well, that's why it's safe as a biker, safest to be in the middle of the road, especially if it's a 20-mile-an-hour road and you're biking close to 20 miles an hour. Like that's the best policy. So car owners, like when you're in the car, make sure to check your mirrors in your bike lane before leaving because you're causing a hazard for somebody else. And yes, you mentioned it is a hazard for you, but that's part of the rationale for having these curbside bike lanes because usually most people are driving just with them in the car. So most of the dooring happens from the driver's side of the vehicle and not the passenger side. So if you have the passenger side of the car next to the bike lane, that reduces the probability of dooring, as well as if you have a 2-foot buffer. They usually have the parking lane, 2 feet, and then the bike lane. So you have the 2 feet separating the bike lane and the car. So that's a reason why, of course, bikers should really want protected bike lanes, but also drivers as well. And then one benefit it has as well, if you're not a biker, if you're just walking, is our car lanes are too big anyways. So even if you have like a low speed limit, people are frequently speeding based on the engineering of the road. So if you do things like shorten the length of a car lane by putting in a bike lane, you're also slowing down the car traffic. And another way to slow down car traffic as well is more stop signs. So you're not just zooming block to block. You have to, you're driving for a bit, you're stopping, driving, stopping, as well as changing the timing of traffic lights so you don't have too many greens in a row. You have some stoplights in there. But right now the only ones who really understand this are the ones who know the terminology in Vision Zero, and then the ones who are opposed to it because it inconveniences them. And you don't really have a way to make it user friendly, all the terminology and all the planning things people are talking about. And I think that's the reason why there is somewhat of a divide, is because there's a linguistic divide over how people describe things.
I saw recently they did vote on putting more stop signs in Jersey City in each ward. Each council person was involved in that, as well as the state and infrastructure and stuff like that or whatnot. But do you, just an off the cuff question, do you agree with the General Square bike lane expansion with Philip? Philip was really a part of that.
Yeah, I actually use it. So let's say I'm going down to the west side
Mhm.
So I'm hanging out with you,
Mhm.
or I want some roti, or whatnot. And then I'm biking back in between that way. There's some roads that are like, okay, it's like I'm experienced, so they're okay to bike on, but there's other ones where even though I'm experienced, they're scary as hell. So like if I'm going to India Square because I really like a good curry, uh, JFK is terrible to bike on. It's not pretty. So the Journal Square ones, like if I'm going to the path station, like let's say take the path in Newark or whatnot, or let's say I'm in a different part of New Jersey and then I take the train to Newark and then I take the path to Journal Square and then I want to bike home by a city bike.
Mhm.
That some of those east to west routes are a little hard to do, but the bike lanes have really made a difference that they recently put in.
The ones on Bergen Avenue. Okay.
That's a good example. The ones I always forget the road names, but I always know the road by like visual.
Mhm.
The ones right by the path.
Mhm.
But one reason why that area doesn't have enough, in my opinion, protected bike lanes or streets that are safe to bike on, is Bogiano, our friend who we like a lot, has been resistant to them for a while. So Tom Zupa is looking to build more of them in Ward C, which I hope he does because we really need it. Not just if you're on a bike, but also if you're walking, as I brought up, or if you're driving as well. So if you're opening your car door, you don't have to worry about dooring as much. Although you should be worried anyways. But reducing accidents for everybody, as well as encouraging more people to bike. Because wouldn't it be a better world if more people bike rather than drive? The streets are less congested. The bike lanes move people more efficiently because they take up less space.
Got it. Let's move on. Jersey City is confronting a significant fiscal challenge, including the decisions about a proposed $105 million state loan and a possible 15 to 20% property tax increase. What's your concern? What concerns you the most?
I think what concerns me the most is not just this year's property tax increase, but whether they're doing enough to prevent it for future years. Because like this year, they're doing it because based on what we're told, that they had unpaid healthcare bills. But the other things driving the budget deficit are still the collective bargaining agreements, the rising healthcare costs, construction costs as well, because we're going to have to build more infrastructure. All those things are going up higher than the rate of inflation. And you want to make, as well as the fact that we don't have a good credit rating. Our credit rating got downgraded because our reserves were too low. So Solomon, to his credit, he's trying to rectify this. So in future years, we get some money. We increase our fund reserves. So then, as well as being able to handle emergencies without raising taxes by a lot, if our bond rating gets upgraded, the current debt we've taken for our capital projects, they can refinance it and pay it at a lower interest rate. So when I was a trustee in Croton on Hudson, we always had a great credit rating, and the only thing that stopped us from being the top was our tax base was too small because we were a small town. But because we had a good credit rating, we were able to refinance a lot of our debt. So we were paying less per year in debt service. You don't want to hold off on projects because they're expensive and you're borrowing. You want to pay for the projects as you're enjoying them, because the longer you wait, the more they go up in price. And once you build it, you've locked in the price. So 20 years from now, when you're paying the 25-year bond for a lot of these projects is getting close to ending, the amount of money you're paying is worth $1.5 million now is different than $1.5 million 20 years down the line when you have inflation. So that's the rationale for doing it. It's not because they're spending like drunken sailors. But a lot of people who run for office and aren't experienced and complain about taxes, they always attack the borrowing and da-da-da-da. But, it's the responsible way to finance a lot of these projects. So long-term, that's what concerns me the most, is not I mean, the tax increase does suck. My rent is going up. But
Mine is probably gonna go up too. Go ahead.
but I don't want the taxes to be double-digit increases each year for the next 4 years. But I also don't want them keeping it low for politics, and then it goes way up again. So certainly Solomon is, from what I read, because it's hard to know the truth, I think Solomon is right to blame the past administration. But we still have to move forward and figure out how can we be fiscally sustainable so we have relatively low tax increases every year.
I agree with that. Wholeheartedly. Me and Esther, I'm sure you know who she is. We have spoken privately. She writes op-eds for Jersey City Times. I invited her on the show, and because of a conflict of interest with Jersey City Times, she hasn't come on the show, and rightfully so. That's fine. But we spoke privately, and one thing I will say is that I'll release public is that we spoke about she is not opposed to the tax increases. What she is opposed of is that they do this in perpetuity, whether Solomon wins in 4 years or not, or whatever, that they keep it at this pace and that we keep paying it in perpetuity. So along with this loan in the MOU, whatever the understanding is of the loan or whatever this is going to be, I don't want it in perpetuity, and I'm not a lawyer, but Zupa and Lavaro, well, Zupa by trade is a lawyer, but Lavaro is very smart in what he does and very knowledgeable. Need to get on that because she's right. If once we finish paying off the debt and we're out of the hole and we're in the green or in the black at least, or at least in the black, the city's in the black, why should 10, 15 years down the line, my kids or whoever, the other generation should be paying for tax increases that in the city is solvent now? So it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to talk to her more in detail to see her concerns, because she's reached out to me as well. And I've liked a lot of stuff she's written. So none of these agreements are perpetuity. Like the two ones that are right now are either 10 or 15 years, depending on how much they raise taxes by. But they're trying, and this is what I disagree with, they're still trying to negotiate it, even though they agreed to it. So that gives them like less leverage, but we weren't in on that executive session where they talked about why they had to do what they do. Because that, even though I like transparency, sometimes there's good reasons for stuff to be confidential because it hurts the city's interests. So we haven't heard, neither of us, the Solomon administration's rationale for why it had to be done right away, all the rationale at least. So, I mean, I still think it's Patterson and Newark. They got 0% loans from the state, and we got 2.75 or 3%. Right. So even though they're like, yeah, Jersey City gets a $15 million grant, the interest on the loan is more than the $15 million. So it's not, we're not getting bailed out. The state's getting their money back and a little bit more, even though Republicans from outside of Jersey City will make it seem otherwise. I feel like we got ripped off. But I mean, it's definitely helpful to us because it's stopping a even bigger increase in the 30%. Now, some of the people on the city council proclaim, if you don't vote for this now, the state may come in and send a fiscal monitor, and they're going to force you to pay 47% like Hoboken did in 2009. But Hoboken, when they were forced to do it, it was in like October. It's still July, and the state never said that. That felt like a scare tactic that was used on freshman city council members who didn't ask hard questions.
Little and Afro Swoop.
Yeah, they were the
shit.
And all that came from the Socialists in Office Committee, I'm sure. Like, they coordinate their messaging and their voting. Like, wouldn't it be great if we had 9 Rolando Lavaros?
Yeah.
Well, of course, you want everyone to be different. Like, everyone's a different personality, and they're all different, and they all do their own homework. So you get like Lavaro, you get Zuba, like, but
Gilmore too,
Gilmore, etc. Always give my flowers to him. But so I think there's a lot more to be seen, right? Because right now, and I remember this when I was elected, and like when I was elected, the budget process was before the fiscal year started. Like, we would start in March.
That's how it's supposed to be.
We would pass it in May, and then the fiscal year starts in June, and then we do the same each year. So right now, they're just spending 2 weeks on hearings for each department. And the way these hearings work in every single municipality in the United States, anywhere, you have your budget for each different department. And the department comes in, they have a head, they dress up very nice, they're very well-spoken and professional. And as always, we can't cut anymore. We are very efficient, and it's either we can't do cuts or we need more money. They're never going to come in and be like, we're begging you to cut our budget. Some of the time they're going to say we have ways to raise revenue. So I'm curious for transportation how that goes, because we know the transportation ideas for raising revenue are not just raising the residential parking permit rates, but also the camera issued parking tickets. So we'll find out tomorrow or 2 days who's getting the contract for that. I don't know if it needs city council approval, but you're going to have cameras when they had the original contract out, which got pulled because the person giving out the contract donated to Solomon and didn't disclose it. And the Solomon administration claims that they found it, but I actually found it and told Gilmore's office, and then Gilmore went to Solomon, and then it was pulled. But the ticket for parking in a bike lane in Jersey City is $175. In Pittsburgh, it's $60. And of course, I would love nothing more than cars not to be parked in bike lanes, but $175 is draconian, especially when $60 works. And why do I say it works? Because Pittsburgh gave out camera-issued parking tickets for parking in a bike lane, and they reduced parking in a bike lane by 70%. So you don't need to make people broke or really hurt them in the wallet to get them to change their behavior. You just need to frequently enforce it. So I would like to see camera tickets where the parking tickets are at a lower fine amount. But that's not going to happen, because when they first discussed the contract, they had revenue projections, which after this company, which will make millions off of this, the net revenue for the city was projected between 13 and 25 million, from what I remember. I know it was a little over 20 million for the highest projection and a little over 10 million in net revenue for the lowest projection. And that revenue is coming from somewhere. Of course, if it's Uber car drivers or Lyft car drivers, New York City, they did a study on the Taxi and Limousine Commission, and something like 90% of people with TLC license plates are foreign-born. So you can go to Delaney Hall and talk about how Trump is terrible on immigration and Delaney Hall is disgusting. 2 things I agree with that on points of view. But how are you sticking up for the immigrants if you're making a largely immigrant workforce more likely to get these tickets that are going to cut into their whole day earnings? Because, like, how many hours do you have to work to make up the $175 you get? Mm-hmm. Especially because you're not getting the ticket right away. You have to wait weeks in the mail. So while you got that ticket, you may have gotten other tickets while you waited. Although the city's claiming they're going to limit it, but if they're using the jargon, they're talking about safety and making the world a better place. But just like Puff Daddy, it's all about the Benjamins. So I view it as a money grab, just like he brought it before, a huge money grab rather than just safety. But people are gonna favor it, I think, in the beginning, the politician class, because they don't want to be seen as anti-safety. But make no mistake about it, it's not about safety. It's about the money, even though the safety is like the side piece.
We had in the Fulop administration, his first term, if I can recall, we had those cameras on Kennedy Boulevard, and he pulled them because a lot of people were disputing the tickets and saying that they were hitting them, and they were, they were flashing. I remember them flashing on Kennedy Boulevard, especially if you ran the red light or would, and he pulled them. So to bring them back, and if it didn't work out, I would find it redundant.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly something that we'll look on later on.
Mm-hmm. You recently met with Councilman Lavaro to discuss Jersey City financial challenges without disclosing anything that was intended to remain confidential. What were the key issues you discussed, and what did you take away from that meeting?
I've actually never met Lavaro in my life.
Sorry, you are going.
I'm going to his meeting tomorrow.
Going to a meeting with Tom Zupa at Mount Carmel tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, it's open to the public, so you should go as well because he's your councilman.
Yes.
So yeah, I filmed the video saying, right, because I want to build on my fame. I was wearing the blindfold. They said, take off the blindfold, show up to the meeting, and ask her hard questions about the budget. But yeah, maybe I will meet Lavaro, finally have a conversation with him at this event. Especially because I'm copying his fashion choices right now in this interview. Dressing up as a middle-aged man.
If those meetings are successful, what outcomes would you like to see from the city council in coming weeks regarding the budget?
I mean, first outcome I want to see is them to cut down the expenses and raise revenue, not from lower and middle income people. So if they're going to increase revenue, make sure it comes from either people that don't live here in a reasonable way, or the very wealthy. And I want to see that they're addressing things to make sure that we don't have the same situation next year or the year after that. But it's mainly not just them listening to me, but me listening to them to find out what's going on. Right, because you got to have two weight. You have two ears and one mouth for a reason. It's listening.
Okay. That means
is that Funkmaster Flex dropping a bomb?
I wish. I don't have many media assets, but yes. That means it's time for our rapid fire. So I'm gonna play a quick 10-second commercial, and then we're going to go into our rapid fire. So we'll be right back. Let me just go to my media assets. Where is it?
One moment.
Yep, here we go. And we'll be right back. Hold on.
Grayson Politics Live, I'm Grayson. Please support the show via the Cash App and Zelle handles and by liking, following, and subscribing. And catch us every Monday at 7:30 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Grayson out.
You're watching a Grayson Media production. Thank you for watching. I'm Grayson. We'll be right back. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the content. We'll be right back.
Grayson Politics Live, I'm Grayson. Please support the show via the Cash App and Zelle handles and by liking, following, and subscribing. And catch us every Monday at 7:30 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Grayson out.
Okay, we are back. It's time for rapid fire. So getting to know Kevin Davis. One answer, no overthinking.
Yeah, it's a weakness of mine. That's why we're 2 hours in.
That's good. No, it's good content. I think we set a record for one of the longest Grayson Politics Lives ever. So that's good. Coffee or tea?
T.
T. Okay. Any specific or?
The ones with the most caffeine, so probably black.
Okay.
When it comes to tea, once you go black, you never go back.
That is true. I'm done. Yankees or Mets?
Yankees.
Oh yeah, I'm a Mets fan, but yeah, I understand. Uh, Giants or Jets?
Giants.
Okay. Which they have. I'm not a big football fan, but they have. Who they hired? Did they hire? They hired the guy.
The brother of the Harbaugh.
Yeah, Harbaugh. Yeah, yeah.
I'm more big into the Canadian Football League, as I mentioned. Saskatchewan
Okay, yes.
Roughriders, 2025 Grey Cup champions.
Who? Fun fact. Didn't The Rock was in the Canadian Football
He
League?
was. The Rock was in the CFL.
Uh-huh.
Ricky Williams was when he was suspended for marijuana usage.
Which I'm surprised he didn't buy. He bought into that XFL crap, and I'm surprised he didn't buy into
The
CFL.
Rock. Yeah, well, he may have thought there's more money in the XFL than the CFL.
Yeah, they wound up merging with.
Don't merge my league. I like keep the Canadian Football League Canadian.
Favorite bike trail?
The Hudson River Greenway in Manhattan.
Got it. Favorite restaurant in Hudson County?
The really good, I can never say their name right, Jing Yang Fusion. It's a Chinese restaurant that's high class in downtown.
Okay.
It's really good. Like they have this fried chicken that's like really addictive. That's like Sichuan, where it's like your mouth is tingling, and they got the hot peppers.
Okay.
Soy sauce in it. The line is always really long, and everybody there who eats is Asian as well, so it's like authentic. The soup dumplings are good there. I know it's supposed to be short, but yeah.
You have to send me that. No, you have to DM me that, please. I'm a big fan of BBQ. I know it's fast casual, but BBQ chicken, so I like stuff like that. Favorite sports team?
The Saskatchewan Roughriders.
know.
As a shareholder, they're publicly owned. I am one of the shareholders.
Okay. Send me
But
that.
the Yankees are a close second.
Okay. Favorite place in Jersey City?
My apartment.
One issue Jersey City must solve immediately.
The current proposed tax increase and all future ones.
And one elected official, past or present, you admire?
Paul Wellstone.
Yes.
That's my favorite politician of my lifetime, with Russ Feingold a close second.
Finish this sentence. The future of Jersey City depends on ...
Housing. If we don't have enough of it, it's going to be less affordable to live here. And if they plan it poorly, it also may be less affordable to live here. So, like, the lack of housing or the type of new housing that gets built is going to reflect the future.
I agree with that. I just don't like that canal crossing pilot that Mayor Solomon is proposing. And like McGreevy said, with the $1,000 rent thing, look, I would love to pay $1,000 for rent. I really would love to, but if it's gonna come at the expense of the city, I didn't know during the campaign trail how much this city was in financial distress. And I thought the city had money. And I'm like, oh yeah, look, if I can pay $1,000 rent and the city can put a 30-year bond out, fine, no problem. But the city is financial situation is to shit, and I can't justify a 30-year pilot for some construction company for people to pay $1,000 rent. It's not fair. It's not right. It's it's just that land should be, you should find a private developer who is willing to, I don't understand why, like in New York, a lot of my colleagues here they have the lottery system. I don't know why we just don't parallel that. It really doesn't make any sense why Jersey City doesn't parallel that. What was his name? My councilman, Brooks. He said, "Oh, we have it, and we did it on Bergen Avenue with this condo." I said, "No, that's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same thing." And a lot of these times, you have the lottery system in the past. It's going to either the council people or whoever they know, or whatever the case may be. Who's who? It's not fair. It's not independent or unbiased. So we should have the lottery system here. For 3, 2 studio, 1 bedroom, whatever. And they shouldn't be at market rates, 20% if you want to build a high rise or whatever. I don't understand why we just don't have that here, but that's another conversation for another time. Kevin, if our viewers remember only one thing from tonight's conversation, what would you hope it is?
To be involved, because if I wasn't involved, there wouldn't be a conversation tonight, and there wouldn't be conversations with other elected officials. So you the people, you're the government.
That's true.
If you don't show up, there isn't anything. If you do show up, we got something to work with.
What's next for you? Any upcoming advocacy efforts, meetings, or projects you would like the public to know about, or maybe even running back into office?
All right. So first of all, me running for office again, because
I saw some people advocating for it.
Well, that's like one of the best compliments ever. So you never say no to it. I'm just going to say, if I were to put an odds on it as like a betting person, because I am, I'd put it like plus 1,500 that I run, and like minus 2,500 I don't, because like I might do it, but I probably won't. What I'm more interested in is not like me having a title or me being in there, but the stuff I care about being part of the discussion and good ideas being adopted. So I'd rather meet people who are interested in doing it, because we don't have a shortage of people running, and then like mentoring them so they can be better elected officials and more effective. Sort of like, even though I'm much younger than him, Paul Presenzano. I met Paul Presenzano. He's a great friend to have, but he benefits a lot from me as well, because he learns a lot from my experience, being a past elected official and as an advocate. But in terms of like what I'm working on, so obviously I'm working on my e-bike safety advocacy, because I want to, even though this law sucks, now that it's the law, I want to make sure that it's either changed for the better as well as being implemented, because I don't want a situation where nobody's following the law and it keeps not being enforced. More advocacy about the next 3 years of this administration as a citizen, because I don't think I'm ever going to be an insider now that I gave that fiery speech. So trying to mobilize other people to show up. And I'm talking to others about making something maybe more formal, potentially, that's going to be organized and efficient as hell and amazing. So that's like organizationally. In terms of issues as well, besides the bike stuff, I'm going to want to work more on potentially having more, safe bike routes as well. But just in general, improving the Oprah system. That's something, because Hoboken, they answer my stuff for the most part right away, although they give me some resistance, but they follow the law. But Jersey City doesn't as well. So we need the Oprah system fixed so people can start asking hard questions and then figure it out, because I'm only as good as the information I get. And it seems like the only information I get from the current administration is controlled by them. And it should be controlled by the people. They should be afraid of us rather than we being afraid of them. But it's rapid fire, so got to stop being fired. Oh, I love that compliment. Thank you. Make NYC safe again. Your sound cut off. Your sound's off.
Sorry about that.
Now it's on.
Where can viewers follow your work, stay informed about your advocacy, and connect with you online?
So here we go. We got my Instagram at public comment Kev. So that's relatively new. I'm not really doing anything on Twitter anymore because nobody's there. But in case I ever decide to post bad biker content again, at Wheelie Bad Bikes. I'm also, my direct messages are open too on all of them, including Facebook. I'm like Kevin Davis, so I'm easy to find. I also write op-eds all the time, usually in the Hudson County View. So you can look at a lot of my past works in there. So it's a lot like this interview, only I would say a bit more humor in my op-eds than the interview. So you have the interview. You have the Hudson County View op-eds. You have I've written some JC Times op-eds. My city council appearances, obviously. So when you see Kevin Davis on that public comment list for Jersey City, you know it's 3 minutes, a good viewing. As well as Hoboken, they give me 5 minutes. So Hoboken's also good, but Hoboken, I'm going to less of their meetings because they seem to be less dysfunctional than Jersey City. So that's how viewers can stay in touch with me.
They should up that at least to 4.
Or should I pull a Mike Jones and publicly put out my cell phone number?
No. Kevin, thank you again for joining us on Grayson Politics Live or Grayson Media Inc. production. We appreciate your willingness to discuss difficult issues, answer challenging questions, and engage in open conversations about the future in Jersey City and Hudson County. Whether viewers agreed with every point raised tonight or not, informed civic engagement begins with respectful dialogue and willingness to hear different perspectives. To everyone watching, thank you for spending your evening with us. If you enjoyed tonight's program, please like, subscribe, and share this interview, and continue participating in our local government. Your voice matters. As always, our mission remains facts, transparency, and accountability. I'm Grayson, and this has been Grayson Politics Live, a Grayson Media Inc. production. Have a safe evening, and God bless. And we'll see you next Monday at 7:30 Eastern. Kevin, stay on behind the scenes. We'll talk a little.
All right. And
thank you for watching Grayson Media, a Grayson Media Inc. production. We'll see you on the next show. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Grayson out.